This is Jed Marum, and we are in the music room. Morning sunlight through the trees, my song sails on the summer breeze, repeating every word I said like running water through my head. Even as I ramble, the hours fly, the miles slip by, my footsteps bring the midday sky. Another tune, another song, another hour, it won't be long. Even as I ramble, oh, I've seen trouble and I bear a heavy load since I started out to roam. But every step I take along this dusty road brings me closer to my home. I can't forget the things I saw, the lonely years I fought this war, the lives of friends I left behind, ever present in my mind. Even as I ramble, I see them now in my mind's eye, the lonely years begin to fly. I take her warm in my embrace, the lonely years just slip away. Even as I ramble, oh, I've seen trouble and I bear a heavy load since I started out to roam. But every step I take along this dusty road brings me closer to my home. Oh, I've seen trouble and I bear a heavy load since I started out to roam. But every step I take along this dusty road brings me closer to my home.
Jed Marum, man, it's good to see you again.
I'm happy to be here.
You know, you came down a few weeks ago, and we got to spend an afternoon together.
That's right.
Great fun getting to know you and finding out about your music and your background, and which is varied. And we want to hear about a lot of it. I want you to meet Helen because you haven't met Helen.
Hello, Helen.
Hey, Jed. I've heard lots of great things about you.
I hope they're all true.
Well, I hope so, too.
We'll find out, won't we?
That's right. And you're currently residing in Dallas.
Yes.
Is that where you were born and raised?
No, I was born and raised in Boston. And
Me
I'll tell that story
too.
later on in a song.
I was, too.
Were you really?
I was.
Oh, my gosh.
I don't remember a thing about it, but that's where I was born.
Well, good for you.
Yeah. So how long have you been writing and playing and performing?
Well, yeah, it's a good question. I loved music since I was a kid. Of course, my mother and father sang, and they had 3 sons, and we all sang. And so my dad played harmonica. I started playing guitar when I was 9 or 10 years old. Took lessons for a few years, and I started writing songs. I guess I wrote some way back then. I never thought seriously about it, writing.
Yeah.
I still don't think of myself as a songwriter, although I write a lot of what I sing. I sing a lot. I'm not doing whole shows, 2-hour shows.
We need to not be doing this show then.
Well,
did I book this guy?
Hey, I wasn't here. I was at work.
I do a lot of different folk style music. When I started doing this for a living, I would think how old was I? Was I 48? I guess 48 years old. And I gave up my day job. My wife and I started early, so our kids were grown at this point. So I gave up the day job and started performing regularly. And I just started writing songs that I wanted to sing. It was as simple as that. These are stories that had inspired me, or stories from my personal life that I wanted to tell.
And you've got a lot of history in your spirit, too, when it comes to your writing. That's one thing you and I talked about, too.
Yeah, history fascinates me. It's true. I did a radio show one time in Louisiana, and they introduced me as being somebody who specializes in writing historical songs. And I started to object, and then I realized, no, it's true. I just, I do.
Didn't mean to.
I didn't mean to. It just happened. Yeah.
I want him to go back to that original song that he started with, Even As I Ramble.
Yeah.
And give us a little history of that, and then take us on into Shines Like Gold.
Okay, that last song I just played is called Even As I Ramble, and it was actually chosen to be the title of the soundtrack album for a film called The Road to Valhalla. But that song actually comes from another experience with a different film many years ago. I was sitting on a film set, and I was a banjo player in this film set and making up this little melody. And the song was, the film was about a young man who was finding his way back home after the American Civil War. He spent a lot of time walking back to Baton Rouge area from the east. And I just thought, what would it be like? I'd be replaying all of these stories in my head over and over, all the dead comrades, all the terrible things that I've seen, but all the wonderful things I'm looking forward to for the rest of my life. And hopefully this song is sort of him debriefing in his mind to you and me, the listener. And that's what that song's all about.
The song stands on its own, even if you didn't know history.
Yeah, good. I'm glad to hear you say that. I hope
that's nice to know.
Yeah.
So you also wrote a song called Shines Like Gold, and this is another movie theme song, right?
Yes. The song is called Shines Like Gold. It is the theme song for the movie The Road to Valhalla. And the title of the movie comes from a quote from a South Carolina soldier. After the end of the Civil War, many years later, he's now an old man. They're having reunions for great battles at places like Gettysburg and Shiloh. And Confederate soldiers and Union soldiers are going back to these places and camping in their own camps, but happy to shake hands with one another. After all these years had passed, they're comrades in arms, even if they were enemies back 30 years before. And so they asked this old soldier, if he was planning to go to the reunions, and he said, well, no, he didn't think he was going to, but he looked forward to the grand reunion in Valhalla. So that place where, in Norse mythology, where, the great warriors go after the battle, after their life is over. And so it just kind of pulled all those themes together. And they asked me to write the song that tied all those themes together. So it's about reunification and so on.
There's a place that I know, if I just close my eyes I can go. There's a place where the sun shines like gold. There's a song in my heart, if I just feel the wind it can start. There's a song where the sun shines like gold. Through the hardships of life, sorrow and strife, and the wearisome heartache and pain, through the battles I strode down this warrior road to a land where the sun shines again. There's a land that I know, where my brothers in battle will go, friend and foe, where the sun shines like gold. There's a light in my dreams, burning bright through my memory, it seems, all these years, and that light shines like gold. We were young, we were brave, on the road to our home or the grave, passing bright, and that light shines like gold. Through the hardships of life, sorrow and strife, and the wearisome heartache and pain, through the battles I strode down this warrior road to a land where the sun shines again. Life returns, years have passed, and a soldier's reunion at last, where they'll stay, blue and gray, shine like gold.
I love your delivery. You're so smooth.
Thank you.
Well, being that you've been doing this for a while,
Yes.
out of all the places that you've played, what would you say was the best experience that you ever had?
As a performer, oh gosh, that's a tough question. One of the funniest ones was in Scotland. I played in a little concert over there in a little village. I can't remember the name of the village. And after the end of my first set, I said, well, I've been doing all the talking and singing. Is there anything you want to hear? Because I knew that they'd familiar with my music. And somebody in the back said, play some Johnny Cash. You're from Texas, you must know Johnny Cash.
Yeah, they have a
That was kind of unusual.
concept that if you're from Texas, then of course you know country and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, well, Americans must know country music. I
Of
suppose that's more
course.
like it. Yeah.
But in Europe, they love the American music.
Yes.
I haven't had the privilege of going over there to perform, but
I did 3 concerts in Ireland last November. We did 3 different shows, and we purposely chose a good mix of American music. It was about half of my own stuff, and then a handful of pretty well known songs that they love over there.
Does your
And,
wife accompany you when you go?
She
overseas?
does on some. Yeah, I don't do a lot of overseas things. I've only done a few, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So it sounds like she's pretty supportive.
Oh, yeah.
'Cause at age 48, quitting your day job and just going after it and saying, okay, either this is going to work or it's not, that's pretty gutsy.
Yeah, I guess it was. I figured I had a few years to make it work.
True.
And it really did take a few years to actually, the first thing I did when I did that was drop 90% of my income. I used to joke that if I could work 150 nights a year, 1,500 nights a year, I could make a living at this.
Yeah, there you go. Now, you mentioned that your children are all grown and gone.
Yes.
Are they musical as well?
Yeah, my 2 older boys both play, and they've both played with me some. My eldest son lives here in the Dallas area, so he plays with me sometimes when he can. He's been awful busy now with a young family himself, so
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I bet you're a fun grandpa. The grandkids come over and
I
you
think
can
so.
let them sit on your knee and play. And
I make sure that I make it a point to play the banjo every time they're over.
oh, that's great. You have a song. It's called Elkhorn Tavern.
Elkhorn Tavern is a song that came from an experience I had a number of years ago. I was playing up in Kansas City, and I was driving up from Dallas. So on 75 up, and it goes all the way up through Kansas. And I think it was in Atoka, Oklahoma. I saw a sign on the side of the road, and it said Confederate Museum. So I pulled over and went in and poured through a number of books and bought a few books. But one of the books that I didn't buy, and I wish I had years later because it was the story that stuck in my head. But a young fella from the Southeast was writing home. He'd been at the Battle of Pea Ridge, one of the early battles and it was in the West and Arkansas. And the Confederacy lost that battle, and his brother had been killed in the battle, and he was writing home to tell his parents about the experience, that they'd lost his younger brother, and that they had lost, the Confederacy had lost the battle, and he was crestfallen and heartbroken. And I just remembered some of his words, and years later tried to put it in a song.
We held their fury yesterday, but they brung the fires of hell today and drove us off from Elkhorn Tavern. They hammered us with shot and shell, and Pa, it breaks my heart to tell, but Matty fell at Elkhorn Tavern. Our lives and our hopes and our dreams torn asunder. Them Arkansas hills ran with blood. Another day I lived to see, but Pa, they got the best of me. Well, Matty fell at Elkhorn Tavern. Through fields of blood and gore we pressed, and even though we done our best, the day fell to the Yankees. It's a bitter draught to swallow, and it fills my heart with sorrow, but the day fell to the Yankees. Our bright southern hopes and our fate left to ponder. Them Arkansas hills red with blood. Oh, it fills my heart with grief and pain, and Matty gave his life in vain when the day fell to the Yankees. Now ma and sisters tell 'em all, it was a Yankee cannonball that took our Matty from us. And if I live to see your face, I won't forget this fearful place that took our Matty from us. Our bright southern hopes and our fate left to ponder. Them Arkansas hills red with blood. Fills my heart with grief and pain, and Matty gave his life in vain when the day fell to the Yankees. Our lives and our hopes and our dreams torn asunder. Them Arkansas hills ran with blood. Another day I lived to see, but Pa, they got the best of me. Well, Matty fell at Elkhorn Tavern. Another day I lived to see, but Pa, they got the best of me. Well, Matty fell at Elkhorn Tavern.
Thank you. Cheerful song.
Yeah, well.
So, you know what I love about this? I love this guy being born in Boston, and he seems to be a rather Confederate convert to me. It's what I call winning them over.
I caught hell for that. I played a concert up in Vermont last summer, and played a couple of the Confederate songs. Now, I had actually played as many Yankee songs, but I still felt it kind of took me to task for it.
Probably ain't a good idea.
I was playing for the United Daughters of the Confederacy. They had their regional convention. This was about 5 or 6 years ago. And the woman who was to become the president of the organization was at my table, and she was a wonderful, wonderful lady. And these ladies are all dressed up beautifully like it was Easter Sunday, and there's 300 of them in this little place. And I told her my story, that I was from Boston and, where I'd come from. And I was going to sing some historical stuff. And just before I went up, she goes, "Now, you're not going to play any Yankee songs, are you?"
To be fair to them all, I mean, it's all part of history, right?
Well, that's true. It is. I mean, they were celebrating the Confederate history, so of course that's what I sang.
Yeah.
You got a song called Dowling and the Davis Guards.
Yeah.
It has something to do with the Battle of the Sabine.
It's the Battle of Sabine Pass, yeah.
Yeah. Tell us about the song.
The song itself, I'd been invited down for the 150th anniversary of the Battle of Sabine Pass. And this is one of those events from the Civil War that's remembered. Both sides, even at the time, thought it was at least mildly humorous. There were 43 Irishmen who were sent down there to spike the cannon because the Yankee invasion was coming. They were going to land in Texas. 6,000 of them, 5,000 infantry and artillery and all that stuff. 1,000 sailors, 25 ships. And the Irishmen, not being very good at doing what they were told, sat around and practiced. Instead, they had some time, and they put markers in the harbor. They knew exactly what was going to happen. They were going to send in a few gunboats and troop ships. And they waited for them, and the Yankees came. They saw the flag flying. They didn't know what was going on, and they just blasted away all morning long while the Irishmen were sitting downstairs playing cards. And, and the Yankees did no harm. They missed. They weren't very good shots, and the Irishmen were very, very good at their job. They were artillerymen.
Letting them wear themselves out over there?
And letting them wear themselves out and wonder what was going on. And sure enough, the two gunboats leading the way get up real close, and as soon as they got in range, they just opened fire, and they very quickly, within 10 or 15 minutes, disabled both boats. And one of the troop ships turned and ran away. The other one ran aground. They captured 400 prisoners. 6,000 Yankee soldiers turned around and went back to New Orleans. Once they figured out what had happened, everybody got kind of a chuckle out of it. So, but it's a true story.
Tucking your tail.
Yeah.
You're cutting your losses, too. Do that song for us.
I will do that song.
Come sit and hear my story, child, upon your granddad's knee, of how the Irish heroes fought in 1863. Lieutenant Richard Dowling led our band of gallant men, a brave and handsome warrior, a red-haired Irishman. Now the war between the states was on, and 2 years come to pass. The Union sent invading force to land at Sabine Pass. To crush the South, the Yankees sent 5,000 by the sea, while Dowling and the Davis Guards, we numbered 43. We didn't know we couldn't win, we faced the Yankee foe. We turned the Federal fleet around and lay their gunboats low. Dick Dowling and the Davis Guards in 1863. The Irish heroes whipped the Yanks and saw them turn and flee. The Federals thought a show of strength would take the rebel fort, and here within a cable length they'd build a Yankee port. So cautiously they pressed their plan, their gunboats breathing fire, while safe behind a dozen ships would watch the fight transpire. Well, they saw their cannon miss the mark, and boats steamed toward the quay. They saw projectiles fall beyond and harmless in the sea. And when they saw them drift in range of Dowling's shot and shell, they saw the Davies open fire and blast them all to hell. We didn't know we couldn't win, we faced the Yankee foe. We turned the Federal fleet around and lay their gunboats low. Dick Dowling and the Davis Guard in 1863. The Irish heroes whipped the Yanks and saw them turn and flee. Well, the Federals struck their colors, put our white flag in its place. 350 Yankees there surrendered in disgrace. Surrendered to the Davis Guard and then were shocked to see Dick Dowling and the Davies only numbered 43. Now history remembers, through the tales of old granddads, Lieutenant Richard Dowling and our band of gallant lads. When each September rolls around, I'll raise a glass and say, here's a health to all the Davis Guard who turned the Yankee fleet away. We didn't know we couldn't win, we faced the Yankee foe. We turned the Federal fleet around and lay their gunboats low. Dick Dowling and the Davis Guards in 1863. The Irish heroes whipped the Yanks and saw them turn and flee.
And I thought Randy's songs were wordy. And I'm so impressed that you remember it all. You have no notes, no net at all. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Very nice.
I remember the story.
I know.
So-
Gosh, very well.
Well, and that
Do you
helps
have
me.
one of those, photographic memories?
No.
What kind of places are you playing now?
I joke that I play anywhere that'll pay me and too many that don't. But no, the truth is I do quite a mix of things. And I guess it's a little bit unusual, but I play some pubs. There's a big pub in Dallas that pays me pretty well, and it keeps me home on a weekend. And so I play there. A place called Trinity Hall. It's a wonderful place. Mm-hmm. And I always enjoy a challenge, so I do that. I do singer-songwriter venues, and I do a lot of the Irish and Scottish festivals. And that had been my bread and butter until the last couple of years, and that's kind of shifting over to doing some of the historical events. I'm going out to Nashville, leaving Wednesday, to play a historical event out there commemorating the Battle of Franklin. Right. So, I've done a bunch of those events as well. So it's quite a mix.
I bet I can suggest some bread and butter for you.
Okay.
History, schools.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Kids would love that. What a great way to learn.
They're not taught, and you phrased it perfectly in that song. We never had a civil war. Yeah. It was a war between states.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was, and technically we didn't have a civil war.
Yeah, yeah. I guess
war's not civil.
Yeah, well, that's true too.
What an oxymoron, right?
I enjoy doing some kid things, and some of the historical events that I do. In fact, this one will have a kids' day. They having me come up to do a kids' day. So I'll talk about, I'll set up a little period camp and dress up like a, periods person might be, maybe a soldier or something.
I think you
and I'll tell them all about the banjo, and I've got an old time banjo, the kind of Civil War soldier might have been able to make in camp, and I show them how it works and tell them where it comes from. The banjo comes from Africa. The kids don't know that story, and the kids love the banjo. And so I'll tell them about the banjo and play some songs from the period. And
you realize it real quick when you go by Preservation Hall in New Orleans, though.
Yeah.
When you hear the old blues players.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah. And the kids do love the banjo, and I tell them all, Christmas is coming, and they can all ask for banjos, and girls make the best banjo players. There's a little bit of truth to that. The boys take it as a challenge, and the girls beam.
Girls have the nails for it, though.
Well, they have the right hand for it. Yeah. And it's very tricky what you do with your right hand, Women are really good at crocheting and knitting and sewing and all those things that men might not too good at. Well, of course, it's a generality, but women really do make great banjo players.
Cool.
Yeah.
Tell us about the song Gentry's Tavern.
One of the things that I've done for the historical projects is I just kind of accidentally got involved with a project in the state of Florida. The state of Florida and some folks down in Okeechobee have discovered where the original battlefield was for the Battle of Okeechobee. The Battle of Okeechobee was it really was the main battle in the Second Seminole Indian War. The Seminole Indian War was probably the first war America fought over slavery. The argument was that runaway slaves had been for generations running away from slaves, plantations and so forth in the southeast, and being aided and abetted, so to speak, by the Seminole Indians and other Indian tribes down in that area. And in fact, there were black Seminole tribes, and they would marry into the tribes and so forth. So they've been living with them for a long time. Richard Gentry was the commander of a group of volunteers that went to fight with the federal troops at that battle. And so I wrote a song about him, and this is it.
Outside Gentry's Tavern, standing in the rain, they were rugged mountain men and farmers from the plains, 600 strong and ready, men who showed no fear. They were Missouri volunteers, veterans of the Black Hawk War and War of 1812. They were men who knew the woods and men who knew themselves. Colonel Richard Gentry, boldly at command, with Delaware and Shawnee scouts, they'd leave for native lands. Now their time has come to an end, and we're scattered over the wind. When we remember their stories again, pass them on, we pass them on. Regimental colors flying on parade. Some wives kissed their men goodbye, and some just knelt and prayed. Gentry bent to kiss her, he loved her more than life. She said, I'd rather be a brave man's widow than be a coward's wife. Now their time has come to an end, and is scattered over the wind. When we remember their stories again, we pass them on, we pass them on. On they marched to glory, but what they couldn't know, what hardship and disease won't take, would fall to the Seminole. For our country we have lived, and for it did we die, said the Missouri Volunteers. Now their time has come to an end, and they're scattered over the wind. When we remember their stories again, we pass them on, we pass them on. Far from home and family, far from hearth and kin, they battled with the Seminole, a war no one would win. Far from fame and glory, heavy was the price. The bold Missouri Volunteers for God and sacrifice. Now their time has come to an end, and is scattered over the wind. When we remember their stories again, we pass them on, we pass them on.
Man, I like it. I like all this stuff.
I had to tell you, I forgot. I actually wrote that song, co-wrote that song with a good friend of mine, a fellow who's working that Florida project with me, a wonderful writer and historian and a songwriter himself, a fellow called Ricky Pittman. He's quite a character and has been a good friend. And he came to me with a poem and some ideas for the music, and we kind of put it together ourselves. We've been asked to come down for the Ricky and I to do the South Florida Folk Festival in January. So we're planning to do that, and then we're going back down for the Okeechobee event.
You have a buddy that's going to be here 2 days from now,
Danny O'Flaherty, wonderful fella.
He's going to be here two nights from now. We're looking forward to him. I've had a great time visiting with him on the phone and getting to know him over the phone.
He really is a great guy.
He seems to have a sweet spirit.
He has a really sweet spirit. He really truly does. Yeah. Yeah, when you first meet him, you wonder if this is, if this is persona, or if this is for real. He's the real guy. He's the real deal. He really is. Yeah, good guy. I played at his place. I used to go and fill in for him when he'd go away for 2-3 weeks at a time on tour, and I'd go down and take his place.
And where was this?
And he owned, I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you that. He used to own a wonderful pub. It was the Disney World of Irish pubs down in the French Quarter. What was it called? O'Flaherty's Irish Channel. And he had 2 rooms, the bar, busy bar, typical bar, and then the ballad room where it was quiet in the evening and that sort of thing. And I'd play the bar in the afternoon, and I'd play the ballad room at night. And it was Sunday night, and I was down there. And, 30 people in the audience, nice kind of quiet evening. And I'm playing this song, and as I'm playing, I can hear footsteps over my head. Now, the gangway that leads to the sound gear goes right over the stage, and I can touch it. It's that close to me. So as the footsteps stopped over where the gear is, I look up to see who's there, and there's no one there. Now, I know that door is locked. I'm the only one working that room for those 3 weeks, and I've got the key tied around my neck so I don't lose it. So I did wonder about it at the time I finished the song, and the next day I started to tell the story to the woman who was managing the bar. She said, "Don't say another word." I know the song you were playing. You were playing Red as the Rose. And I was floored. Yeah, I was playing Red as the Rose. How do you know? She'd never even seen me play. She didn't know. She said, "Red as the Rose is Angelique's song, and Angelique is the ghost that inhabits the upstairs bar. And she's been seen or heard or otherwise experienced whenever that song is played."
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. So needless to say, for the rest of the 3 weeks, I played that song every chance I got. Kept expecting to see Angelique looking down at me from the upstairs.
Footsteps?
I never did. Never again. Just that one time. Yeah.
That's all she needed.
You need to tell Danny about that story. Because when I told him the story, I could just see the hair on the back of his neck stand up. He knew exactly where I was going with the story. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
We will do just that.
You have a song called Sands of Aberdeen.
I can't believe you asked me for that one, because that is where this song came from. I thought to myself, now there's a ghost story here. I should write this, from the perspective of the footsteps of a loved one. Is it a ghost really, or am I just my imagination? Well, Angelique's story was bleak and terrible, and I didn't want to write that story. But I had come across a story about a fellow who was a captain. He sailed a ship over from Aberdeen, Scotland, 1830. I read his diary. He said the weather had been good to them, and what they would do is they wait for the ice to break up, anchor the ship for the season, catch and dry cod and salmon, and get beaver pelts and seal pelts, and fill up their ship with riches and sail home in the fall. Well, it was almost January, he said in his diary in 1830, and the seas hadn't frozen. The weather had been kind to them. He said, my wife's going to think she's a widow. And I said, here's my ghost story. Mm-hmm. So I wrote this song called Sands of Aberdeen.
Gray and blue while I wait for you all along the South Breakwater. Overdue, how I long for you, I long to see her sail. May the cold North Sea bring you home to me. I am my mother's daughter. From that foreign shore, frozen Labrador, home to Cruden Bay. Every night I hear your footsteps climbing up my stair. You kiss my cheek and I awaken. I speak your name but you're not there. Time wears away, wearing day by day. Are you still among the living? Months have been since you should have seen the golden sands of Aberdeen. Every night I hear your footsteps climbing up my stair. You kiss my cheek and I awaken. I speak your name but you're not there. Time wears away, still I wait and pray all along the South Breakwater. I watch for you, how I long for you, I long for your embrace. Every night I hear your footsteps climbing up my stair. You kiss my cheek and I awaken. I speak your name but you're not there. Every night I hear your footsteps climbing up my stair. You kiss my cheek and I awaken. I speak your name but you're not there.
Thank you.
Who would you say growing up were your main influences as far as music goes? Who were you listening to?
Clearly, my first main influence, and he was a very serious influence, was my dad. He just had all these beautiful old Irish songs that he sang that he learned from his dad and from his grandfather. And his grandfather and so many of the aunts and uncles were right off the boat, so they brought these songs with them. And his father's side had been here for a couple of generations, but so they all sang all those songs. So I grew up singing those songs. He was a big influence on me. I loved Pete Seeger when I started listening and playing. Kingston Trio was a little before my time, I guess, but I liked those guys. I think, like all the rest of America, I loved the Beatles. You know, they couldn't do anything that I didn't love.
Yeah.
I still love them.
Me too.
And
I mean, there's nothing you can't listen to. Even though the worst songs.
yeah, I know. Even the worst songs are good. Yeah, it's so true. And I've sung so many of them over the years. And then, when I started getting serious about music, I loved Muddy Waters, Lightning Hopkins, B.B. King, and around that time I'm listening to Stephen Stills and Crosby, Stills and Nash.
Stephen Stills was listening to those same people.
And listen to the same people. That's true. That's true. Yeah,
because you could hear it and everything he was doing.
It's funny because I love electric guitar. And I've had a few over the years and played in a couple of bands, rock bands and stuff. But, man, every time I pick up a guitar, it's always an acoustic, I'm an acoustic bigot. There's nothing I can do about it. I can't change it. I love it. I love it when other people play it. I want to listen to it all the time. But for me, it's an acoustic.
I wrote a song one time called Heading Home. And you've got a song about heading home. called West Texas Wind.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
And so it has a similarity to it.
You know what's really, really strange about sitting here? And when you first got here, Randy asked me, "Do you want to go ask Jed any questions?" I'm like, "No, I just want to wing it." And I do that because I like to not have you repeat yourself and ask the same questions.
Sure. Yeah.
And I have found that through your songwriting and just talking to you, that you and I have so many parallel lines in our life, it's not even funny. We were both born in Boston. I married an Irishman, and I have 2 Irish children, obviously. My grandfather was a Scots Guard from Scotland. My mother's from England, and my business takes me to West Texas. How weird is that?
That's pretty amazing, yeah.
I'm telling you, that's weird.
I'd say that's a good thing.
I mean, it's cool, but wow.
That's pretty amazing.
Okay, West
Tell us about
Texas
that song.
Wind.
West Texas Wind. I had done a whole a 2-week tour out through the West, and it was a little over 2 weeks through Amarillo and out through the north part and northern Arizona, and then down through back through New Mexico and Texas, and I finished up playing in Midland, Texas. And I think I did a show on Sunday night there, and it was Monday morning, and it was a beautiful day. And driving home, I just got to it just felt so good to be going home, you know, much as I'd enjoyed the music and the trip. So anyway, I saw an eagle flying, and I just all of these things just kind of came together in this song.
If I could fly, I know that I would ride on that West Texas wind, spiraling high, over and back again, out on a West Texas wind. For thousands and thousands of miles I'd roam, my feet never touching the ground. But I fly straight and true, I come back home to you, riding a West Texas wind. Sunlight in the sky, eagles on high, born on a West Texas wind. Morning birds cry, song in reply, born on a West Texas wind. The morning light carries me miles from home, my shadow slips over the ground. But I know through and through I'd come back home to you, born on a West Texas wind. Ever widening sky before me, and the West Texas wind carries me home. If I could fly, I know that I would ride on that West Texas wind, spiraling high, over and back again, out on the West Texas wind. Running thousands of miles I'd roam, my feet never touching the ground. But I know through and through I'd come back home to you, riding a West Texas wind. I fly straight and true, I come back home to you, riding a West Texas wind.
I like that song. I think that one's my favorite.
Thank you.
I really do.
So I have to ask you a couple of other questions. One is, the people listening to this are going to want to know how to find you on the internet. So let's talk about that.
JedMarum.com is the easiest way.
And spell that for them.
J-E-D, just like Uncle Clampett. J-E-D Marum, M-A-R-U-M. That's M as in Mary at both ends.
There you go.
JedMarum.com. Lots of stuff. A lot of them all over YouTube and iTunes and all that stuff.
So they can find your music on iTunes?
I'm real easy to find, yeah.
Where would you prefer them to buy the music?
Well, actually,
to come to your concerts?
CD. Well, come to concerts.
Yeah.
Because I
I'm
get
feeding you all this stuff.
concerts.
Jed,
Great
get
idea.
with it.
I actually do a little bit better from digital downloads than I do from CDs, believe it or not.
Okay.
Just a few pennies, but so I'm happy with digital downloads, even ones at a time. So we sell lots of them.
But you do sell them at your shows.
I do sell them at my shows, yes.
And your shows, I'm sure you have a calendar page, and you're on Facebook too.
I'm on Facebook and yes, and Twitter, and my website has a calendar with all of the details of where I'm playing.
You and Helen, you wonderful Texans now that you've been converted
I
from
know.
your Boston area.
Boston.
So we get to hear all about Boston.
Well, before we park the car, why don't you go ahead and take us out of this show with Yankee in Texas? That's appropriate.
It sure is.
Hey, real quickly, too, at what point in time in your life, musically, did you come to Texas as opposed to, I know you grew up in Boston, but...
When I came to Texas, I had just about stopped. I had stopped performing on a regular basis. I used to have a day job and work music at night in local bars in the Boston area.
But, I mean, what point, chronologically, where were you in your age?
How old were you is what he's trying to ask.
When I was, it's 1986, so I don't know, 30-something.
Okay.
When
Yeah.
you came to Texas?
When I came to Texas, yeah. And then I put away music. You know, I started working in the business world and didn't play music, perform music at all. I thought I'd given it up.
And
Then I
look at you now.
walked into Guitar Center one day, and I came across this beautiful Larrivee guitar, and it just spoke to me. And of course, in those days, I had no problem with pulling out my credit card and buying a guitar and bringing it home because I made enough money to do that sort of thing. But then when I started using this to make my living, I couldn't do that anymore.
As you came to Texas,
Yes.
when did you decide you want to play again? I mean, what made you decide to come out of that
Well, that's
self-imposed?
You know, it's a good
exile?
question. I did. You know, it's funny. I never meant to have a business career, but I had a real meteoric career. I did real well, and you know, I did a lot of independent consulting and on computer projects and that sort of thing. Worked in the airline business and worked in China, worked in Bolivia, and you know, all over the place. And I loved it. But after a while, it wasn't what I wanted to do. And you know. At that point, I'm in management, which is kind of a problem. You know, it's not stuff I loved the people and so forth. And when I started playing music again, I knew I was going to put away the other stuff. Yeah.
One last question
Yeah.
before you take us out of the show with Yankee in Texas. How would you say Texas has affected you musically?
That's a great question. It's actually opened my eyes a lot. You know, I didn't realize how provincial my music background was until I started playing down here. And first of all, everybody thought I was an Irish singer because of the songs that I sang. I thought, well, gosh, everybody in Boston sings these songs, you know. But it really opened my eyes to a lot of different kinds of music. You know, I started to love some of the Texas writers, you know, Townes Van Zandt, Jerry Jeff Walker. And
It's a long way from Boston to Austin.
it's true, and it rhymes. So there you go.
There's your new song.
There's a new song right there. I got a rhyme. I'm ready to go. Well, anyway, I told people that I never knew I was a Yankee till I moved to Texas. For so many years, I decided I had to finally write that song. But I did work for Herb Kelleher at Southwest Airlines for a while, and it was a great place, and I loved it, and Herb was a wonderful fella. And so I had to put him in this song, too.
Well, I'd never been south and it got me to thinking, growing up as I did in the land of Lincoln. I had a roving heart for a family man, so I packed a wife and kids in a moving van. Now I'm Boston born and Boston raised. I'm sometimes scorned and sometimes praised. But the smartest thing I ever done, moved a family to Dallas in 1991. Yeah, we're talking a Lone Star State, home to Lyle Lovett, Townes Van Zandt, Kinky Friedman, and sweet little governor, Andy Richards. Well, I worked for Herb those early days, put Southwest travelers on them big orange plains. I learned the Lone Star style and took the change in stride. Stayed at Boston baked, I take my beans refried. I learned that oak is live and pine ponderosa.
I heard songs from Robert Earl Keen and Tish and Hosa. I met Nolan round a few George Strait, Texas, but I never knew I was a Yankee till I moved to Texas. This is a place where cold beer is one word, and you celebrate holidays like Cinco de Mayo and Alamo Day and Juneteenth. Oh, the stars burn bright in Texas. I swear it's true now, y'all. Big and bright in Texas. If there anything at all, wasn't born in Texas, but if the good Lord hears my cry, I'll make my home in Texas and live until I die. Well, the years spun by, we put down roots. I found me hat, put on some boots. Though I haven't quite conquered a credible drawl, I have mastered fixing to. Yes, ma'am, and y'all. I quit my day job, now I'm following a star. Know too well what my shortcomings are. I got gangly legs, a few of Freud's complexes. And I found out I was a Yankee when I moved to Texas. But this is bush country. Sam Houston, San Jacinto, rodeo and the state fair. Oh, the stars burn bright in Texas. I swear it's true now, y'all. Big and bright in Texas. If there anything at all, wasn't born in Texas, but if the good Lord hears my cry, I'll make my home in Texas and live until I die.
Lots of fun.
Well, Jed, if you ever questioned yourself as a songwriter, that song made you one, because every songwriter just about that's come through here that is either from Texas or moved to Texas has a Texas song. So you are officially a songwriter because you have a Texas song.
I'm in good company.
That's right.
The title is Banjos We Have Heard on High. And I got to thinking one day, and I realized that if banjos can announce the birth of the Savior through harps and singing, they could certainly do it with banjos and probably do it even better.
I heard a band of angels sing, banjos we have heard on high, banjos heard on high. And on this day a newborn king, banjos we have heard on high, banjos heard on high. Holy night, silent night, Lord of Lord and light of light. Angels sing, banjos ring, praise the newborn King, Son of God and Son of Man. Banjos we have heard on high, banjos heard on high. And on this day a newborn king, banjos we have heard on high, banjos heard on high. In Bethlehem a bright and shining star, banjos we have heard on high, banjos heard on high. And following were wise men from afar, banjos we have heard on high, banjos heard on high. Holy night, silent night, Lord of Lord and light of light. angels ring, praise the newborn King, Son of God and Son of Man. Angels we have heard on high, angels heard on high.
It's been wonderful having you in, and I look forward to you coming back sometime.
Thank you for having me.
And I want to also thank Gina Barber Moore, who are our photographers that do all the
Good to
wonderful
have Barbara
pictures for
back.
our website.
Great to have Barbara back.
That's right. And thank you for our small and cozy listening audience. And thank you for listening. Without you, we wouldn't be here. You're in the music room.